Eagles. Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mack. John McMullen here with you live to close out the week here as the NFL Combine is taking place right now. We are brought to you today by the great people at Fritz Bianculli Law Firm. Johnny Mack, how you doing on this Football Friday, my friend? You're muted, John. I think it's the video that plays. That's what's doing it. It's muting your mic, so make sure you unmute.
I knew it wasn't me. There we go.
Yeah,
it definitely wasn't me. So, all right. We've been having that trouble during the week. So we hit the ground running. Nice. You're in the why can't I think of it? Not the Blue Mountains.
Smoky Mountains.
The Smoky Mountains.
The
wow.
Smokies.
I'm losing it.
Yeah.
Smoky Mountains, chilly there, chilly here. Indianapolis, it's a little bit hotter with all the length, short arms, long arms. Ruben Bain, we knew that was going to be a discussion.
No, you just muted yourself. Can't hear you, J-Mac.
I did not touch anything.
Okay. And dude, you're welcome to my world. You have the cord problem. I'm gonna have to get you a new mic. One movement of the mic the wrong way, it's muted. That's just it's the worst. Go ahead. You were saying about Ruben Bain.
Yeah. So couple teams had his arm length at 32, which I guess is kind of acceptable, but a bunch of people had it at 30 and 7/8, which is not acceptable. At least from the typical traits, but he's in my category. That guy can just play. That's how I feel about it. And there's some people that it doesn't matter. Usually, if you're a normal run of the mill prospect, you can't play edge rusher with that frame. You can't do it. But when you're that physically gifted, and I think you saw it with him in the college ranks, I think he's certainly a legitimate top 10 prospect on this board. That might knock him down a little bit, but anybody who gets him is going to get a really good player, a really good player.
How much does it matter for somebody like him versus like a tackle,
Oh, it matters a lot. I mean, edge, and in fact, a lot of people are already speculating he'll move inside because of the lack of length, and it'll be a 3 technique ultimately, like an undersized 3 technique, like Aaron Donald, because of the arm length. Arm length is really, really important for edge rushers. Same thing for tackles, because those big long tackles get their arms on you, and it's a long way. It's like going around the orbit of the moon, man. And you get it's really difficult to play the position if you have short arms, and that's the reason why you hear this talk. But that's the kind of stuff that'll get blown up. But every once in a while, like Aaron Donald shouldn't be as good as he was because of his size inside, but he was, because he was better than everybody else. And I think I don't want to say it's that level with Ruben Bain, but I think he's such a good player, he'll overcome it. But as I said, an average prospect cannot play edge rusher with those arms. Can't do it. Can't do it. That's why they have.
So what do you think will happen with Ruben Bain? I'm a big fan of Ruben Bain, John. You think he's going to end up having to move inside? Or do you think that's just talking combine because he got the measurements done?
Well, right now it's just talk. You're seeing the same thing on the offensive side with Will Campbell. Actually held up pretty well, and I think his arms were 33. Actually held up pretty well during the regular season, and then kind of collapsed in the playoffs, like the Patriots offense as a whole. And that's part of the reason that Drake May played so poorly in the playoffs, was that, a significant pass rush, and that affects every quarterback. And now people are already talking about moving Will Campbell inside the guard. So it'll depend. Obviously, he'll start on the edge. And then will depend on how he looks. And if it's not going the way you want, they'll probably move him inside. So that's how it'll go for Ruben Bain.
We'll see what ends up happening there, Johnny Mac. Combine underway now as we talk about that. Plenty of news here. Not much news in Eagle Land new, but there are things to talk about, as always, with what's going on with this team. John, yesterday, and I'm going to start here just to get your broader perspective here. John, I think this is a tough offseason for Howie, just that it's the decisions to make are not as clear-cut as they normally are. And they're not always clear-cut decisions, but normally it would be pretty easy to say, yeah, we're going to keep our $32 million wide receiver. It doesn't feel like those decisions are so easy this time around with AJ, with even Jalen Phillips, if you're going to get into the $25 million plus range. I think starting with AJ, though, your 1A of the offseason, it just feels like a tough decision, John. I mean, everything points to, okay, they're going to get rid of AJ, but it's bad business. Like Jeff Kerr said on Tuesday, it's bad business for the Eagles. They're not going to get the compensation back for them. They're not going to be a better football team, and they're going to have to eat a boatload of money that they don't want to eat. I mean, it feels to me like it's a lose, lose, lose for Howie, and I don't see Howie wanting to make that move. What do you make of it? And do you think the decisions are as tough right now as I think they might be for this team?
I think it's how you frame it. Everything you said is correct. And then I go, and the only thing you left out is what I've been saying all week. You don't want hostages. If he doesn't want to be here, all of that evaporates. And that to me is the discussion. Now, everything I hear from
you think that's more important, though? That's more important than having a good player.
Yeah. If he doesn't want to be here, it turns into not being a good player. That's what happens.
See, all right, I don't disagree with you, but this would be my pushback on it. So we think placating to basically AJ's emotions, for lack of a better word for it, are more important than having great players. Like, John, if they get rid of AJ Brown and then they draft an offensive lineman in round 1 who's going to be on the bench in year 1, I mean, John, doesn't that look like they're kind of selling on the 26th season? I mean, you use a luxury pick.
Well, I think hiring
and you get rid of AJ Brown. I mean,
I think hiring Sean Manning could be argued that you're punting on the 2026 season. So, I mean, it's actually the Eagles aren't. I mean, I'm not trying to say they are, but when you hire an offensive coordinator with 2 years of coaching experience and has never called a play in his life, even as a quarterback, that's not Kellen Moore, who's been doing it for years and years and years. And obviously they were looking at Mike McDaniel and Brian Daboll, so they were trying to replicate the Kellen Moore aspect, somebody with significant play calling experience before they pivoted, because they had to pivot. So there's a lot of ways you could look at that, other than the Eagles in their minds are always trying to win, but there's different ways to go about winning. Like you had AJ Brown. Look, first of all, it's weird for me because all I've done is talk about AJ Brown. I'll say it right now. I think he's the greatest wide receiver in this team's history, franchise history, and they have Hall of Famers, Tommy McDonald, Harold Carmichael. I think this is the best receiver they've ever had, ever. And if it's going to be a short shelf life, it's going to be a short shelf life. But, the A.J. Brown of last season wasn't as good as the A.J. Brown of the prior 2 seasons. Why? And people say, well, he's not trying. There's no effort, which I don't even agree with. That's Eagles fans. The late hand stuff, where when it works, it's great. He's the greatest thing since sliced bread. When it doesn't work, he's not trying. So I don't agree with any of that stuff. But what I do agree with is he didn't play as well because he struggled to keep his focus because he was frustrated.
Right.
And if he's going to be frustrated again, and I think he's going to be frustrated again, well then, it changes the equation. But to your standpoint of all the business stuff, yeah, it doesn't make sense. And obviously you prefer that he'd be happy. And if he was happy, and you wouldn't even have a discussion. But from
I
all
know,
the
but it just feels
indications,
to me like I agree with you. It just feels to me like Howie's not gonna make bad decisions just because AJ's butthurt. Like I get your point. You don't want hostages, and I think it's correct to be frank. But really, I mean, we're gonna make ourselves a worse football team. I'm gonna lose the trade. I'm not gonna get back the value that the player's worth. I'm not gonna replace the player with a better receiver. I'm gonna lose every part of the trade because you're bitching and moaning while making $32 million. Like that doesn't. Is Howie gonna do that? I get your point. You're right. I don't know. I
well,
feel like the other side of it's compelling as well.
The ultimate team game, you can win in different ways. You don't have to win the same way. You don't have to replace AJ Brown with AJ Brown because you can't, number one. But you can win in a different framework, in a different style. And who knows what Devontae Smith looks like as wide receiver one. I know the team thinks he can be a wide receiver one. We'll see if he can, if it happens. All I can say is they're certainly listening. They're certainly, from everything I've heard from Indianapolis, is that behind the scenes there are talks. So all the, Howie world tour of, and he said the same thing. He's just saying the same thing. We generally, don't trade away good players. We want to add to good players. We don't want to get rid of good players. And then he says, but it's our job as GM to listen. Well, he's listening.
Yeah.
Now, early indications I've gotten is he wants a 1 and a 2. I don't think that's plausible, but that's Howie overshoot.
But that sounds more like it. I mean, I get it. I get that it's not plausible, and I don't think they're going to end up with a 1 and a 2 either for a $29 million wideout. But that's more plausible to me. Where I struggle is like you're going to get back a second round.
Well,
pick,
yeah, they can get a 1 and a 2. It might sound better, but they're still not replacing them. They could have a 1 and a 2.
I know they're not replacing them, but at least you're getting back something of significant value that you can build with. I still think they're punting this 26 season, but
and I don't think they look at, even if they do trade him, I don't think they'll look at it like they're punting the 2026 season. But I've looked at that like that since they hired Sean Mannion. I think it's absurd to think he's not going to have growing pains. I think it's silly. I mean, what? I guess it's possible.
Oh, he's gonna. Yeah, no, it's not possible. John, find me.
No, I mean, I guess he could be the most natural play caller of all time, is what I'm saying. But what are the odds of that? Very unlikely.
Well, even if he is, I mean, won't he still have growing pains?
Well, you would think, but
yeah,
for all the people,
he's gonna have growing pains.
I've got a lot of you're negative. It's just common sense. It's not negativity. So from that standpoint, and I've said pretty consistently, does this market, does this city, does this team have enough patience for that? Well, I haven't seen it. Why would it start now? And if you're going to reboot, then if that is truly your punting, why wouldn't you trade him then? Just get him out of here and start the reboot.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, if they're going to get rid of Dallas Goedert or let Goddard walk, let Nakobe Dean walk, if Ed Kratz is right and Jalen Phillips walks and AJ Brown gets traded, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news this morning, but I don't think the Eagles are competing for a Super Bowl in 2026. And they drafted an offensive lineman in round 1, which is no guarantee. But if they did do that with the sight on the future, I would say, folks, I'll see you in 2027 because I don't think they're competing in 26.
Well, I don't think
you'd be hard pressed to convince me otherwise.
Well, my convincing you otherwise is look at the other teams. Seattle's the Super Bowl champions. I don't think they're an insurmountable mountain by any stretch. So, I just don't think there's any great team. So again, you'd be a different team, but you're trying to be a different team. So I don't know if that's a negative to any of it. Again, Devontae Smith is really good. I don't know if he can handle 150 targets, but we would see in such an indication. You are going to draft players, and maybe they draft Sadiq and they got a tight end, and they're more dynamic at that position. Maybe they draft. Maybe Jahad Campbell's better than Nakobe Dean, which I think he is. And I love Nakobe Dean, but I think Jahad's a better player. And Jalen Phillips, I think they're going to get back. But if they don't, that's one they'll have to replace as well. And Reed Blankenship, I think they're going to get back. So, if you frame it that way, it doesn't look too bad when you compare it to everybody else. And I remind people this offense was not good last year in the passing game or the running game.
Yeah, but that's why we weren't a true, legitimate, team that ended up winning a playoff.
Well, so my point is, why can't you improve on that just by better performances of the guys? Like if Landon Dickerson is healthy, which may be a long shot if Cam Jurgens.
Well, that's fair, but is that going to be enough to make up for losses of AJ and Dow? Presumably, we by the way, right now we don't know. They could all be back, and this could be a completely moot point, but. Just looking at what we perceived or what we believe will happen, or at least what my belief is. I don't know if those things are going to make up for those losses, John. You're going to be another good team, not great team.
If you get the running game back up to 1,600 yards for Saquon, not even talking about 2,000, 1,600, your passing game is going to be better than it was from last year, no matter what it looks like. I'm very comfortable saying that. No matter what the talent looks like, no matter what the skill position players are. If you get the running game back up to where it was prior, not the Saquon 2000 season, but the Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift seasons.
Right.
If you get it up to that level, whatever it looks like, Devontae Smith, insert names, it's going to be better than the passing offense was last season. That's my prediction.
Well, maybe, John. Yeah, maybe. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. We're going to talk a little bit about Saquon Barkley later on in the show today. We will do that. Appreciate everybody being here. Don't forget to hit that like button for us. All right, get your text in. I think we're almost sold out on the tickets. I think there may be a couple stragglers who haven't who sent the text but never closed out the deal. So there might be a couple there. Shoot Krause a text 267-261-3428 to get to the home opener with JAKIB Sports. We're looking forward to doing it with everybody. Probably going to do a live show from down there. We'll have everything set. It's only February, so we don't have all the details yet, but we do know we'll be sending everybody to the game, and we'll be doing an event down there. So get your text in. Shoot Krause a text 267-261-3428. Appreciate all you guys being here. John, what's the latest at the Combine, man? We started with my concerns about the Eagles being a true contender in 26. We'll see how our audience takes it. I'm already getting called the negative. Somebody said, who pissed in my Cheerios at the cabin? Nobody pissed in my damn Cheerios at the cabin, man. I'm just wondering about this Eagles football team. John, what's the latest from the Combine when it comes to the Eagles? There's been a lot of players reported, that have met with the Eagles. You've already added the context to that.
They're not relevant. But, they're not. You try to grab everybody you can, and they're not really that relevant at the Combine. Again, I pointed out earlier that the Cowboys released a list, and it's enormous. It's just, I get it. It's been a thing for years, and it's just not that big of a deal. So, an indication that the Eagles talk to so and so. They're talking to everybody they can. And obviously, they have interest in certain people they know. But the goal is to do the due diligence, and Howie talks about it all the time. And when he brings in guys like Jalen Phillips, he just talked about it. They did a lot of work on him coming out when he was drafted in the first round, and that they go back to it when a player like that becomes available. So that's why it's so important to do due diligence on everybody. So highlighting that the Eagles talk to somebody at the combine is just not that relevant, because they'll talk to so many people. The top 30 visits are more relevant, certainly when they start to come out. And obviously the pro days, you'll see various Eagle scouts and coaches go around to different pro days and try to get a look at players there as well. So it's a long process. And this is just the start of it. And the most important part, as I said, and I know, it's not true until Adam Schefter says it. Well, Shefty said it. The most important part is the medical. Not that that should be news to anybody, but it's been that way forever. It continues to be that way. And that's the information, unfortunately, that none of us will ever get. And that has more bearing on anything else. But yeah, so if anybody wants to ask questions about the 77 meetings they had, feel free, but it's not, I could lie to you, but it's not that important.
Any of the names that you hear, John, pique your interest, though? I mean, even if they're not going to end up in Philly, any of the names excite you, or maybe not? Maybe not. That's not the right word, but pique your interest, J-Mac?
Well, I thought, because some of the tight ends talk yesterday, and that's obviously a position that, in theory, could be, they might have to repopulate the entire room, literally. Dallas Goedert's a free agent, but so is Grant Calcaterra, and so is Kylan Granson. So that was your three top tight ends last year. And so they're taking tight ends, they have to take, at minimum one. They're probably going to add a few bodies, whether it's undrafted free agency as well. So they could draft two. They certainly have three, or maybe even more than that, with undrafted free agency. So that's a position. I'm going to have a heavy focus on Oscar Delp from Georgia. He's from Georgia, and the Eagles go heavy at Georgia. We know. He was speaking yesterday. I thought it was very interesting, because he was speaking, and he had mentioned, because he got the question and he met with the Eagles. So antenna up for some. And he had mentioned he's a receiving tight end that's getting better at blocking. Or I'm sorry, he had mentioned he's regarded as a blocking tight end, but he's a receiving tight end. So that's how Oscar said it. So I said, oh, that's interesting, blocking tight end, because that's going to be impactful for the Eagles, because one of the problems they had, and how he admitted it when he talked to us last week, was that they probably should have had a more diverse, traits in the tight end room, because Goddard, Granson, Calcaterra are all receiver first, and they need blockers. So I said, oh, this guy's a blocker. So I pull up some scouting reports, and everybody talks about him like that's a weakness. Everybody. So I texted one of my guys, and it's like, yeah, he's a good receiving tight end, some mismatch potential with linebackers and things like that, but he's got to get stronger, and he's got to get, sharpen up his technique as a blocker, basically paraphrasing. And I'm like, what's going on here? He's on the podium saying he's
Yeah.
everybody thinks he's a blocking tight end. So
Maybe he's doing a little reverse psychology, John. He's
maybe,
tripping people up, man.
maybe. And so anyway, Oscar Delp is a guy I did some research into yesterday. And there you have it. So, that's a potential. That's a day 3 pick, I would think. Certainly not going to be day 1 or day 2. But again, at a position where you have to potentially repopulate the whole room, there's a good chance that they're going to take 1 or 2 tight ends in this draft, and then, as I said, add some undrafted guys as well. And their history with Georgia is their history with Georgia. They love taking guys from Georgia now because they like the way Kirby Smart runs that program. So there you go. Some intel on Oscar Delp, tight end from Georgia.
I like it. A little, bait and switch potentially on Oscar Delp. John, let me ask you this. What do you believe is the likelihood or the possibility of them actually using a first-round pick on a tight end? Let's just say, hypothetically, Kenyon Sadiq falls and he's sitting right there at 23. Do you see the Eagles putting that ticket in, or do you think they go a different route?
No, I would still bet against it. But I would say it's a little bit more of a chance than normal. Like normal, I'd say no way. I'd say there's probably a 5-10% chance this year. If they think he's, Kyle Pitts-esque, which I don't think they do. So that factors into it as well. I don't think he's that good. And he's undersized. And again, I think they're more focused on getting the George Kittle type or the Tucker Kraft type who can do a little bit of both rather than just having the receiver. So I would still heavily bet against it. And like if he's there, I know I've seen a lot of mock drafts. So if he's there, they'll take him. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think they're focused on the kid from Ohio State. If he's there in the 2nd or 3rd round, I think there's a good chance they take him. And he's
that's the Clare kid or the Max Clare?
It's Claire or Clare. I don't know. Maybe somebody can correct us, but he's the guy. I think he's the more modern sort of move tight end that you can align all over, and he can also, go traditional wide back, just be in line. He's not going to embarrass himself. So I think they'd rather have him, to be honest, because he's more well-rounded.
More well-rounded and maybe even a better value.
Yeah, not as gifted, obviously, as a playmaker, but, I think, and all you have to do is look at Kittle and Kraft and see how they play the position. I think that's what they want.
I like Clare or Claire. I got to figure out how to pronounce his names because I feel like we'll be saying it a good bit in the next couple of months. But I like Clare. I think he could be good. I just thought about Sadiq, and this is what I'm struggling with, John and Brown. Once I started the show where I started it, and I'm like, boy, if AJ Brown leaves and they draft an offensive lineman, which I'll understand. I'm not going to criticize the pick of an offensive lineman to replace Lane Johnson. But if they do that, and they trade AJ and Dallas Goedert walks to go somewhere, like it's going to be hard. You're going to have a hard time, not you personally. People are going to have a hard time selling me that the Eagles are trying to go back and win another Super Bowl in 2026. It just won't add up to me.
Well, hey, look, I think everybody goes to, it's like they do these studies, of men when a pretty girl comes on the television screen, their eyes dart to the girl. They've literally done studies on that. No, not surprising. Football fans dart to skill position people, and as I've always said, can't play offense, can't block people. So, and the Eagles, are very disciplined and understand the star of their team has been the offensive line. The offensive linemen have never been the star of their team, other than Kelsey becoming bigger than the game. But even when you're in season, like nobody talks about, well, Jason Kelsey's the best player on the Eagles. No, he just became a celebrity. Lane Johnson's going to Hall of Fame, but you always had the quarterback, the running back, the wide receiver. Everybody's attention goes to that. They know the foundation of their team that has made them so successful is starting to have some issues. And
not that easy to fix, though. You know, it's not that easy to fix.
It isn't that easy to fix, but the only way to fix it is to bring in some tools and get it done. And I think they know.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, the Lane Johnson replacement, while it's going to be very hard to replace the player, not saying that, but that's the most obvious one. You know, okay, you're going to draft the right tackle because you need a replacement for Lane Johnson, who, you know, Father Time waits for nobody. That's, to me, that's obvious. You know, it's hard to do, but it's obvious. What do you do about your 26-year-old center that you hope he gets back? Your 27-year-old guard who's top of the league in contract. You know, that's hard to replace. That's hard. You're not benching that guy. You're not just drafting their replacement and, you know, okay, all good. You know what I mean, John? It's not that simple.
You might have to bench them, not literally, but figuratively, and say, well, this guy's not healthy, so we're going to put him on injured reserve. And if he's on injured reserve, well, somebody else has got to play. So you got to get somebody who can play. Now, you know, hopefully that's already in the building with Drew Kendall at center. Maybe it hit that way and maybe it works out. You know,
how about Willie Lampkin?
Yeah, people love. I wrote about Landon Dickerson. You know, Willie Lampkin. I'll tell you what. If you're talking about the new offensive scheme, Willie Lampkin's the guy that can get out and reach block.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's right.
5'11", 290-pound guy. I mean, he's the guy who can get outside. He's the maybe it does work. You know, these are long shots, but you know, if you get Spencer Fanu, if you get Caleb Lomu, if you get Blake Miller, if you get Monroe Freeling, there's a better chance that it works out, though, if you're being realistic, that you get a top-tier offensive lineman. And then you got to factor in Jeff Stoutland not being here and his history developing players.
Yeah, that's a huge factor.
John,
also, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
You don't have that aspect in your program anymore. And you have an unknown essentially in Chris Cooper, other than what he's done in Minnesota, which wasn't that great, to be honest. So,
right.
A lot of moving parts. But
how does that impact the linemen that they've drafted? Like the Drew Kendalls, like the Cam Williamses, like the Miles Hintons, those guys.
Well, they've only had 1 year with Stoutland, so I think, you know, they'll be able to. It's common now. Who knows how many coaches they had in college? College is even more upheaval than the pros, which is tremendous upheaval. So they're not guys who've been with Stout for like years and years and years. I think they'll be fine, but I don't know if, you know, Chris Cooper can develop them as well, but I think they'll be fine moving off whatever techniques and whatever Chris Cooper's going to emphasize. I think they'll have an easier
sometimes
time.
You hear the scheme. Yeah, well, maybe. Sometimes you hear, though, like previous regime, you know, and they're not tied to the players that are now, I'm not saying Jeff Stoutland drafted those guys, but it feels like most of the linemen that were drafted by Philly in the Jeff Stoutland era were tailored to Jeff Stoutland, or at least players that would fit with Jeff Stoutland. That, you know, if he's gone, well, how does that change?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if those guys don't perform well in training camp, yeah, they can all be cut, every single one of them. Yeah, no doubt about it. It's easy to move on from a day 3 pick to your if they draft a couple guys this year, if Cooper likes them, yeah, I mean, they could turn the page on all those guys. But I'm just talking about the people that are here. You know, in theory, Kendall, if I'm thinking as a bit for this scheme, I would say Kendall and Lampkin, just from a trait standpoint, they can get out and move. Cam Williams maybe as well, because he's very athletic for his size. And who knows? I mean, the whole thing with Cam Williams was he had to get bigger and stronger with Stoutland. He still has to get bigger and stronger, but it might not be as big an emphasis for him to push people around as, more play into his athleticism. So we're in a wait and see mode how things change on the offensive line, other than they're going to change because they're going to use different blocking schemes and, in theory, start looking at different styles of prospects than they have in the past.
We'll see what they end up doing there. John, let's go back to tight end real quick. The funny part about tight end, John, is you don't really need one tight end. You need multiple at this point. Do you think they could draft multiple tight ends in the draft this year? Do you think they would, draft one and acquire another via trade, or maybe free agency, or a different route, or maybe Goddard ends up back? Who knows? I think that would be I would certainly be, happy with Goddard coming back. What do you think they do to address, really the multiple needs at tight end? It's not just one player that's going to get the job done.
Yeah, I mentioned that before when we were out talking about Oscar Delp. I expect them to bring in multiple bodies, rookie bodies, whether it's draft or undrafted free agency, and really with a focus. You got to find a headliner. So if that's Dallas Goedert at $8 million, that's great. If that's Max Clare in the second round, that's great. And then you gotta fill it in with more, I would say, blocking style tight ends, or at least more well-rounded tight ends. And yeah, I could see them drafting 2 tight ends. I could see it, but they'll definitely bring in multiple bodies when you say undrafted free agency, and people will snicker. They always snicker at undrafted free agents. Well, one thing you can find is tight ends that can block, because most people don't want one-dimensional blockers. So you can get an undrafted guy who could be your third tight end and be all of a sudden better in the running game because he can block. Sam Roush from Stanford is a guy I've been looking at. He's just a blocker. And he's not going to do much in the receiving game. So those guys, they're going to get pushed down the board, not up the board. And I could see him going undrafted. And he'd be one of my first calls. Just get that friggin' blocking tight end. And if you got to piecemeal it like that, piecemeal it like it. We all want George Kittle, who can do everything at an elite level.
You're not getting that easily.
Yeah, but that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in this draft. So, Sam Roush will probably get drafted, I think, late 6th, 7th round. But if he doesn't, and, that's a guy I'd focus on either late in the draft. I might even use a draft choice on him. But they don't have late picks right now. Obviously, Howie's going to manipulate. But,
And how do you see the free agents, John?
Oh, the free agents that undrafted or actual unrestricted?
No, not the undrafted. Like, I'm looking at the list, and I'll give some people some names, John, and you tell me. Travis Kelce, obviously no. David Njoku, Dallas Goedert, Tyler Higbee, Zach Ertz, Austin Hooper, Foster Moreau, Adam Troutman, Tyler Conklin, Noah Fant, Mo Alley Cox, Darren Waller, Kylan Granson was here, obviously. What's his name is on here? Harrison Bryant's on here as well.
Bring Harrison Bryant
back. Bring
Chris Manhurst
back. Mercedes Lewis. You have Isaiah Likely, Daniel Bellinger, Cade Otton, Quentin Morris, Tyree Jackson, another former Eagle, Jake Tongas, however you say his name, from the San Francisco 49ers. Any names like that could stick out to you that you could see them trying to go for?
Well, they signed Kylan Granson last year. 1 year guys. So Isaiah Likely, no.
How about a more of a splash? Like, how about like a $7 million guy?
No, I don't think that. Well, Dallas Goedert. If they can get Dallas Goedert, the perfect situation would be to get Dallas Goedert at $7-8 million, draft Max Clare, and then get a Sam Roush type. And there's your tight end room. John Fitzpatrick, keep an eye on him because he's, from Green Bay. He's a blocker. Now he's coming off an injury, though, so you have to see if he's healthy, but he'd be a 1 year minimum guy. But as far as splash, no, the only splash is, but again, he won't be considered a splash because he's already considered an Eagle, and that's Dallas Goedert. I don't think you're shipped. I don't think Dallas Goedert is leaving and you're bringing in David Njoku, who's, nearly the same age and probably a little bit more expensive, even though I know fans would like it because they know the name. So, yeah, they'll bring in a veteran, but it'll be more of the Kylan Granson level, but as a blocker. And that's why a lot of focus on John Fitzpatrick if he's healthy where he is. But that's just simply people speculating because he was on Green Bay. Bring Jack Stoll back. How about that?
Yeah, I saw him on the list too. I didn't mention the great Jack Stoll. Maybe I should have.
He's a blocker. But yeah. Howie told you all it's a retention off season.
Well, he told us last year it was a maintenance off season when he was right, but didn't work out well for us. You think it works out better this time around?
Well, you gotta make it better decisions. Look, you remember how excited some of the people were for Azeez Ojulari. They've receded into the background, When it works,
Azeez Ojulari.
When it works, like Patrick Robinson, it's great. When it doesn't, it's not great. 1 year deals are 1 year prove it deals for a reason. They're prove it deals. You got to prove it. Of the group last year, by the way, I predicted Adoree would be the biggest one to contribute. Got that one right. But from the other guys, I thought the other guy who was playing well was Josh Uche, and then they had to talk Brandon Graham out of retirement, and then they traded for Jalen Phillips, and all of a sudden there was no role for him. I actually think he played okay, actually better than okay in his role. Obviously it was a rotational role, but I thought he actually played well. And yeah, most of the guys didn't click. And that includes the trade guys like Jacorian Bennett, and didn't click.
John, I got another topic here this morning. We'll see what ends up happening with it. John, I got another topic here this morning that's going to fall in line with the somebody peed in my Cheerios this morning theme. So I'll take your hate mail all week. Just know it's being sent into the abyss as I enjoy the Smoky Mountains. Okay, so you can save it or you can send it. It doesn't matter to me either way. John, the impact of Saquon Barkley on this team. All right, you look at Jalen Hurts and you look at A.J. Brown. They are two of the biggest reasons that the Eagles were as successful as they were in 22 when they went to the Super Bowl and came, on the brink of winning it. And Saquon Barkley showed up after the 2023 offseason. Obviously, they went on a historic year and then had an amazing Super Bowl victory with Saquon Barkley. Wasn't as good last year, but still had a productive season all around. Looking at Jalen Hurts, he had 460 attempts, 66.5 completions in 2022 with 3,700 yards and 22 touchdowns. In 2023, he had 3,800 yards, 3,858, 23 touchdowns. He had the increase in interceptions that year, but 538 attempts, perhaps a sign developing as a passer. You look at A.J. Brown, John. I'll pull up A.J. Brown's stats. 22, he had 1,496 on 145 targets and 88 catches. 23, he had 158 targets, 106 catches, and 1,456. Well, when Saquon Barkley showed up after 2023, John, both of those two players, arguably the two main players on your offense, arguably the two main production players on your offense, well, their numbers both fell off a cliff. I mean, Jalen Hurts went to 2,900. A.J. Brown has fallen down to 1,079 and 1,003 in the last 2 years. Obviously, almost a 50% reduction in targets, 158 to 97 in 24. You'd back up to 121 last year, but still significantly down from his peak in 22 and 23. Is that all because of Saquon Barkley, John? I mean, Saquon Barkley showed up here and, arguably the two guys who were carrying the mantle for the offense went backwards. I mean, almost in a pretty big way. Have the ramifications of signing Saquon Barkley, as good as there have been, every action has a reaction, every action has other consequences to it. Do you think that's one of the reasons that this offense has gone so stale, so ugly, and so needing of major sweeping changes, which has ultimately led us to Sean Mannion, Josh Grizzard, and the rest of the bunch that they've brought in this year? How do you see that, and just your thought process on how you view that?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. They turned into what they turned into and won the Super Bowl. So, the natural human nature aspect is do it again. And last year it didn't work because when you play that way, there's a small margin of error. We talked about it all year and people got on it. Oh, they'll do it. And they did do it, to their credit. They won it. They won with that style of football. It's not easy to play that style of football.
Did they do it at the detriment of the quarterback, who's arguably a much more important piece for the team in the big picture?
Well, it depends what you look like. If they didn't do it, they wouldn't have won the Super Bowl.
That's true.
They wouldn't have won.
But they got pretty close to winning without doing that, though.
They did, but they weren't in a position to do it that year, the Kellen Moore year. We saw early in the season they looked nothing like a Super Bowl team. And I thought, they pulled the plug a little bit early from my perspective, but I also acknowledge I wouldn't have pulled the plug and I wouldn't have won the Super Bowl. And they pulled the plug and won the Super Bowl. So, that emboldens you.
Right.
And it should. But yeah, I mean, and then the problem moving forward is you're not going to replicate that year, and they thought they could, and that's unrealistic. And a lot of things went wrong on top of it, injuries and all that kind of stuff. But, and then, it's was it Jalen I think it was Jalen, not AJ, who said, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And they didn't use it, and they kind of lost it, the passing game.
Yeah. Yes, they did.
So for those who want to go back to the glory days of 2022, I don't think it's relevant simply for that matter, for that reason. Well, they're not as good as they were in 2022 throwing the ball. And they're trying, obviously now they're going to try to shift and get better. And we'll see what the whole thing looks like, but still the impact is going to be run first. And now you have to worry yourself on where Saquon is as a player, because the guy who played last year wasn't the guy who played in 2024. What year are we in? Yeah, 2024. Wasn't the same guy. So pick your reason as to why. Touches, wear and tear. But the bottom line is he wasn't the same player. And who's the real Saquon Barkley? The guy who played in New York, the guy who played last year, or the Super Bowl Saquon Barkley? It's very conceivable.
Well, right now, yeah, good.
It's very conceivable that's his best season, and you're never going to reach that plateau again. And if you don't reach that plateau again, you got to add other things to the mix. Doesn't mean it can't be effective, but you got to add other things to the mix. And they didn't use it, and they kind of lost it, to Jalen's point.
So was it short-term gain for long-term pain? I mean, I don't want to diminish, obviously, what they were able to do with Saquon Barkley. That is not my point of this. My point is simply asking where we are today and how we ended up here. And I'm of the belief that the quarterback is the most important part of the offense. And if you don't do things to accentuate your quarterback, eventually you are going to pay the price for that, especially when you have a quarterback that you've identified as a franchise quarterback and that you've paid like a franchise quarterback and that you've treated like a franchise quarterback. So, again, they won the Super Bowl. I don't think I'll look like an asshole if I say that was dumb to do. But, have the negative effects of that, have the long-term pain of that turned into, well, yeah, offensive coordinator changes. They're struggling to pass the ball. A.J. Brown wants out after 2 years of, lesser numbers. Jalen Hurts hasn't been quite the same quarterback in the last couple of years. I think most people would agree with that. I don't know. I mean, I think that's a fair question to ask at this point.
Yeah, it's a fair question to ask, but I think the trade-off is the Super Bowl. Everybody's okay with it. I mean, you get one, you're okay with it. And then if you have a couple years, and again, the pain, I find that word funny because they act like it's pain, but they won 11 games, and they were really, in my opinion, the health of 3 players away from being a legit Super Bowl contender again. I believe that if Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson and Lane Johnson were healthy, they would have been legit Super Bowl contenders. Maybe they lose to Seattle in the championship game. Maybe they beat them, but legit Super Bowl contenders, if those guys stayed healthy, they didn't. And that's the NFL. I mean, that's a part of it. Attrition is a big part of it, arguably the biggest part of it. But, so I don't think the pain was as great as some have made it out to be. Still a good team.
Just haven't the Eagles acted like it's been that big?
Oh yeah, they act like a 5 team. But that,
right.
That's it. That may be a good thing, because when they lose or when they perceive that they don't reach expectations, they try to get back. I think that's a good thing. I don't agree with all their decisions to get back, but I think it's a good thing that they are trying to get back. You got organizations who don't even try. So I think that part of it's positive. But yeah, no doubt. I mean, that year was just not something you could replicate, and they tried to replicate it, and it didn't work.
We'll see what ends up happening moving forward, John. We will see what ends up happening moving forward. I do think the shift is coming here, and we will see what the Birds end up doing. It's going to be an interesting season here to boot, with the draft on the horizon. Sorry about the damn dings. Can't shut them up on this laptop. I don't know. I feel like Caden Steele, John, that one day where he couldn't shut the ding up. I couldn't shut the ding up. So apologize for that. John, with the draft on the horizon, the combine out there, it is an interesting place for this Eagles team this offseason. It feels like a little bit of not uncharted territory, but it does feel like a different approach than the last couple years that this team has had, because they've been so damn good. They've been such a good team, and right on the brink. It feels like the upside is there this offseason, but the downside is there in a much bigger way than I think it was in the last couple of years. Meaning, if they don't make the right decisions, or the AJ Brown is gone and you're not able to replace him, and Sean Mannion does have major growth. Like, it feels like the bottom is a lot lower this time around. I don't know if that'll be true. I hope it's not true, but it does feel like that at this point in time.
Oh, unquestionably. Floor versus ceiling. The floor is much lower than it has been over the past number of years. Much lower.
Is the ceiling higher?
Ceiling, probably. Yeah, probably a little bit. But again, so much goes into it.
That's a tough needle to thread, John. They had a pretty good run, man.
Well,
the ceiling being higher than 4 straight years of 11 plus.
No. Well, I mean last year. I mean, I'm going off last year, not the Super.
Okay, that's fine. That's fair. Yeah.
Little bit. But yeah, the floor is much lower. I mean, much lower. I mean, let's be honest. Sean Mannion could be a freaking disaster.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
totally be. Would that surprise you?
It would. I don't think he's gonna. I think he's a smart guy. I don't think he's going to be. But I mean, this is rare where you do this in the NFL. So, I mean, you got to be honest. People don't do it for a reason. It's not like, the same thing's going to go on in Washington with David Blau. So we're going to see how that works out. But, yeah, I mean, but the passing game was so poor, and the running game was so poor. Again, I've talked about this from the beginning. I think you might get improvement just from players bouncing back, just from players saying, "Boy, I had a shitty year. I gotta pick it up." Because a bunch of guys underperformed. We how many times we talk about how many guys on the Eagles offense got better last year? And my argument is zero.
Yeah, I think
zero.
You're right.
Now you could say Devontae Smith maintained. I wouldn't debate you. You can. Some people.
Yeah, but Devontae Smith. I mean, if people are being honest about Devontae Smith, I love Devontae Smith, and I am not here to say that he's not a great player. But I mean, John, he was the 10th overall draft pick. I think everybody's been hoping for that next step into a true elite receiver territory. Now, I don't think he's in the offense that accentuates that opportunity as much as some others. I obviously recognize that, but I don't think Devontae Smith's taken the leap that most hope he would take. And I think he's capable of taking the leap. I just don't think he's been able to do it.
I mean, I think circumstance limits him there.
I agree.
What are you going to do as the wide receiver 2 on a team that doesn't throw the ball?
Right. Oh, gosh.
So, I mean, I'm looking at it just as an individual performance. I think he's maintained. I think he's a very good player, I think. And if they do trade AJ Brown, I think he'll be a legit wide receiver 1. But you have to see it. And a lot of people don't want to see it because they want AJ. So I get that part of it too. But overall, the majority of guys had down years from what was expected. And I think the natural inclination is there. Not everybody, but a bunch of those guys will bounce back and play better. And if it's the offensive lineman, well, then all of a sudden you might be cooking with gas again. Because, look, just from a talent perspective, they have the most talented offensive line in the NFL. But they're all hurt. Are they ever going to get back to that level? I don't know. And how is, this new scheme going to affect the way they play? my assumption is Sean Manuel will get here and say, well, I want to run wide zone eventually. I want to run stretch eventually, but I got these guys who are so good at pin and pull and gaps, and I'm going to use this a little bit more. I think he's going to do that, but this is all just speculation until we actually see it on the field. But
John, what do you think Devontae Smith's ceiling is as a player?
Well, I think his ceiling as a player will not be reached until he gets the opportunity. I think you've seen him as a player. It depends how you look. I know what you're saying. You're saying numbers. The numbers won't be there until he's the wide receiver one.
Yeah, I agree.
If he's the wide receiver one, he will have good numbers. He's got the potential to have 1,400 yards. He's got the potential if he holds up. Again, you have to worry about the size a little bit. Because I don't know if he can handle 150 targets. That's my biggest concern. And then, the same problem exists for DeVonta Smith in this offense as A.J. Brown, in that it's not a high volume passing offense. So that doesn't change if A.J.'s not here. But he will get more of the targets simply because he's going to be the guy. So it depends how you frame it. But what I can tell you is a really fucking good player. That's what I
know that. Believe me, I know that. I watched him. I've watched him make some insane catches in his career. I mean, the highlight tape of DeVonta Smith is incredible. But sometimes I look and I'm like, man, I wish they were using him more. I wish they were getting more out of him. I wish he had the opportunity to be talked about like the best receivers in the game. And maybe Eagle fans will push back on me on it, which some have in the chat, which is fine. But the reality is, in NFL circles, DeVonta Smith is not talked about like the elite receivers in football. He's just not. Maybe that's because of circumstance. Maybe it is. But he hasn't reached that point yet. And maybe he never will. Maybe he will.
The best example of that is nobody was talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba as one of the top receivers in football, because nobody talks about any wide receiver too as the one of the best receivers in football, because they don't have the opportunity to be one of the best receivers in football. You have to be the one.
JSN's what, in year 3? That was year 3. I think he just had.
Well, they yeah, but they moved on. The key is they moved on from DK Metcalf. The Eagles haven't moved on from A.J. Brown. So it is all circumstance to this point. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be JSN and explode to that level, because, again, the second part of the equation is high-volume thrower. Deep balls all over the place. So they're not going to have that second part of the equation either. But the numbers will certainly go up if AJ's not here for DeVonta Smith.
Obviously, DeVonta Smith is immortalized as an Eagle player with the dagger, John, and the big Super Bowl throw and catch from Jalen to DeVonta. That one will live in infamy for a long time, no doubt about that. Good stuff there. I want to thank everybody for being here. We got about 50 minutes left to play here on a Football Friday Combine week. John, what's the schedule this weekend for the NFL Combine? You know what they call it, John? I hate to tell everybody, but I'm a little bit on Mountain Time, John. You're going to have to plug me in on what's going on right now in the Combine and what the schedule looks like for the weekend.
Well, I got to plug myself in. Let's see.
You're on that South Jersey time. Same thing.
Well, no, I mean, just from the standpoint of which players are going. So yesterday were defensive linemen, linebackers, and kickers. Friday, which is today, defensive backs and tight ends. So the guys talked the day before. So you heard a lot from the defensive linemen and linebackers on Wednesday. They do their drills on Thursday. Yesterday, the tight ends were talking. I told you about Oscar Delp. The DBs were talking. They're on the field today. Quarterbacks will talk today. I saw Garrett Nussmeier was already talking. That's a guy the Eagles like. Wide receivers and running backs will talk today. So big skill position. This is the day for talking because people love the skill positions, but they will be on the field Saturday. And then Sunday, offensive linemen finish it up on the field, and they'll talk obviously on Saturday. So there's your combine on-field schedule. Today, D-backs. So you're going to hear a lot of 4-4 talk. So-and-so ran a 4-4. And tight ends, which is big for the Eagles, the tight ends. So, because they got to remake that room.
End up doing with that room. It's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing. John, I'm trying to find it on my X. I saw it yesterday. I should have mentioned it earlier. Yesterday, John, the next segment here. Appreciate everybody being here. Hit that like button. Next segment, though, John. The report cards came out. Is that right? The NFLPA
the
does
report
those
cards.
report
I
cards.
should have mentioned that.
I forgot to mention them. Yeah,
they're not allowed to come out. Kaylin Kaler from ESPN got a hold of them. So the NFLPA report cards, the Eagles, similar to last year. Players don't like the locker room because it's so small, which is obvious. Team travel's been an issue. They got an F. That was their worst grade. They got an F last year. They don't give first class seating to players. They give it to coaches. That's the problem. So yeah, I mean, and remember a lot of this, I know a lot of fans think, the head coach got an A, the general manager got a B, and people look at that and say, but remember, this is what's that saying is Nick Sirianni's a player's coach, which he is. So, it's not like they're grading Howie's job performance, as a GM, which is obviously very highly regarded around the league. And remember, the GM also has to cut people and trade people. So, there's natural pushback. So I think a lot of context is lost, because I heard somebody saying, the locker room and the locker room got a bad grade and they said, well, AJ's creating issues. And it's like, no, it's a small freaking locker room. That's what they hate. You got these Taj Mahals, the Houston Texans, just they have one of the smallest locker rooms in the NFL, maybe the smallest. Their facilities are outdated, so that's why they get bad grades on some of these things. Now, the travel stuff they should be able to fix. For whatever reason, they haven't fixed it. I think our buddy EJ Smith said today that, with the Rothman stuff and changing to Jefferson Health Training Complex, they are going to expand the old Rothman building. They're going to take that over and expand a little bit. So they'll probably increase the locker room. So that might fix some of the issues. But long term, they gotta get a new practice facility, or they got to redo the whole thing and increase, into the Naval parking lot for people that know the area, which has plenty of space, but the city owns it. And for whatever reason, there's been issues, and but they need to upgrade the facility.
Interesting. I'm going to put the, let me see if I can put them on here. The grades, see if people can see these. Should work. There you go. You can see them on the screen there. They're the Eagles grades. Let me put the scroll off so you guys can see that bottom one there. Team ownership is a B. John, what sticks out here also, all the coaches are in the A category except for the offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo, came in at a C+, but strength coach A-, position coach is A-, defensive coordinator obviously A+ for Vic Fangio. People like him a lot more than they did in Miami. Special teams coordinator is an A, and the head coach is an A, Johnny Mack. I thought that was interesting for Nick Sirianni to get the A. I know you point to him being a player's coach, but I think there's a little bit more depth to it than that in terms of I think players like playing for Nick. I mean, I really do. I know Nick gets a lot of shit from fans in this city.
They
I
like playing
Nick.
for him. I'm
people
not
call
saying
me
that.
a Nick defender and a Nick truther. I think Nick does a pretty good job, but those are your look at the grades.
Yeah, I'm not saying they don't like playing. I mean, that's.
What'd you make of Patullo getting a C+?
That to me is just about results. Same thing as why he got demoted. I mean, that's about results. That's all. Same as fans. Bottom line game. And the offense wasn't very good. And, the defense knows it. It's probably a bunch of defensive players. I don't know that for a fact, but they kind of carried the team. And when you look at the makeup of the team, and everybody talks about that all the time as well, how much the offense gets paid, and they didn't live up to expectations, to say the least. So, it is a surprise it's so low. Usually the coaches get near A's or at the worst B's because you don't want to piss off the guys who can cut you. So it is a surprise it's a little bit low. To me, with these things, the more important things are the off the field issues. So the categories, if you want to put them back up: treatment of families, home game, field, which got an A, which is very good. I'm surprised by that. The food, the dining area, which is phenomenal. I say A. Nutritionist, dietitian, B+. Locker room, D, which is terrible locker room. Training room, B-. Again, that's pretty bad grade, believe it or not. And this type of thing, D's really bad. B-, that needs improvement. Weight room, A-. They have a good weight room despite the lack of room in the facilities. The team travel is very big, and it continues to be widely disparaged with an F. Those to me are the more important aspects of that survey, because that's things that typically you think of the Eagles being a first-class organization and doing things the right way, and they typically do, but they're limited by their facility. Because when it was made, it was state of the art, but that was 25 years ago. And again, Houston just announced their new district. It's going to be called the Toro District. They're going to have a whole district.
Man, crazy.
Yeah. So Miami was number one. Miami's just got a brand new facility. I was there a couple of years ago. It's phenomenal. Minnesota was number 2 again. Their facility is phenomenal. Eagles are just. There are probably, I would say, conservatively, and I'm being very conservative here, there are conservatively 50 college teams that have better practice facilities than the Philadelphia Eagles. And probably more than that. Probably more.
Have you seen some of these college facilities, John, that these teams are putting up?
That's what I'm saying. Oh my God.
I watched something on YouTube probably a year ago of one of the Alabama players. Damn, what was it? What was the dude's name? I'm blanking on his name. His dad played for Alabama too. But he's got like a YouTube channel, and he did a full tour of the Alabama new $300 million facility. I mean, my jaw was on the floor the whole video. I'm like, holy. I mean, they got a barber shop in there. I mean, they got everything you would want to live a good life, basically, at college campuses. So it is the Eagles will need an update. We will see what they end up doing with that. But that's the report card. I thought it was overall pretty positive for the Philadelphia Eagles. So good stuff there. We will see what they end up doing to address some of those things in the future. I think, as John pointed out, they're probably waiting. There's some political stuff that goes on when you have to get new facilities and move into a new place or get more space in cities. So those are all part of it. We'll see what ends up happening.
Go to the suburbs.
With that. Yeah, John. I know John's been saying that. John, I want to end it on a more positive note. We got about 40 minutes left to play here. I don't know if this will take the whole 40 minutes, but I do want to end it on a more positive area of the week because people will say I've been negative today. That's all right, everybody. I'm in a great mood. I'm just asking the questions that you need answers to. John, I think there should be a lot of optimism, though, for the Eagles in the draft. Okay, they have 4 picks in the top 100, or at least we presume that with that. I think that, what's that 4th round pick? It comes in right before 100, right? I know they have 23, 54, and 68 from the Jets for the Hassan Reddick trade.
There's 32 comp picks. There's, a few. I don't know how many contracts are worthy of a 3rd round pick. So you have to tack those extra comp 3rd round picks. That's why they don't have the numbers yet of the day 3 picks, because you don't know how many comp picks there's going to be. There's, people speculate you can get close, but until those are officially announced, you don't know the exact spots they're going to pick on day 3, but yeah, they should have, as you mentioned, 4 in the top 100.
So we'll see. So, John, here's a look at the Eagles' ability to get players that contribute in the drafts. All right, there's going to be a graphic on your screen here for those not watching, listening to the podcast. We appreciate it, and it shows your draft picks for the last 5 NFL drafts. Now, this isn't to say that they're all perfect. All right, but it shows the picks at the top of the draft. And, man, the Eagles have done a pretty good job at getting players that contribute. In 2021, they took Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, Milton Williams, and Kenny Gainwell, all productive NFL players. In 22, they took Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, and Nakobe Dean as their top 3 picks. All pretty good NFL players. Obviously, some question marks on a couple of them or on Jurgens right now, but we will see. 2023, they took Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, and Tyler Steen. Again, some question marks there, but albeit you have 3 starters in the NFL. 2024, you took Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Jalix Hunt, 2 of those being all pros in just their 2nd year in the league, and Jalix Hunt emerging like a bat out of hell. And then 25 last year, they took Jahad Campbell, who had a great start to his rookie year, and Andrew Makuba, who, maybe has some growing pains, but was a starter when he was healthy and was not much of a liability. So, John, there is reason for Eagle fans to be optimistic, man. You look at the way they've acquired talent via the NFL draft. John, they've been on a run, man, in the NFL draft right now. And we're going to hope it continues here with the 4 picks in the top 100 for the 2026 NFL draft.
Yeah, well, you can take it either way, man. They are on quite a heater when it comes. Howie is on a heater when it comes to the draft. And how long can it continue? I mean, this has been a historic run, I would argue. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. You just ran down the list. Their premium picks over since 2021 are outrageous. Just doesn't happen like that for most teams. So to expect that to continue for another 5 years, it's probably not realistic. But you hope it continues for a 6th year. So, that's the trick. But Howie, I think the turning point was the Jalen Reagor pick. And, he often mentions, he sort of just made it simpler, and, he's the guy who's got to take the heat. And he's the guy who's going to get the blame, and he's going to make the final decision. And as you run down that list of names, he deserves that because nobody else in the NFL has that draft record since 2021. Nobody.
It's a pretty damn good draft record, man. It really is. I mean, looking at that graphic, it's a pretty impressive graphic. But overall, it gives me confidence. Now, I do think there's a difference, though, John, when you're drafting for players that need to contribute in year one. It's obviously a harder needle to thread at that point, and it does feel like this year, man, we need some players that can contribute in year one, and you look at this list, there are a lot of them who did contribute in year one, but Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, Jalen Carter was good in year one. Nolan Smith didn't contribute much in year one. Cooper and Quinion are a rare breed. They were beasts right out of college, which is pretty impressive. Devontae Smith year one was solid. Landon Dickerson, I think, was he a year one starter? Landon Dickerson.
Yeah, due to injury, he wasn't supposed to be, but he came in. I think the second or third game, and his first play was a disaster. He just got bowled over, and we went, "Oh boy, here we go."
Oh yeah,
and worked out well.
Figured out, but yeah, a lot of contributors on these lists. The question will be if they can get contributors, and does it feel like that to you, John? Normally, you don't want to make your draft picks where they need to contribute. That's why they say it's best to patch your needs in free agency and then draft the best player available is what they say, or what you hear sometimes.
Yeah, you want to draft proof the roster in free agency. So
right.
By that,
exactly
that it means you don't have an obvious glaring need to where you at least have somebody like a Dory Jackson who can play cornerback, that. So you're trying to draft proof the roster. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Most teams want their first round picks to get out there and play. Now, if top 10 pick, everybody wants them to play. Probably up to top 20. And then as you go down, there's a little bit more wiggle room. The Eagles will start at 23, but they still want that guy on the field year one. Everybody else, there's not a necessity, but you're hoping to get contributors right away at the bare minimum in premium picks, day 2 picks. Last year it was Makuba who ended up being a starter until he got injured. They didn't have a third round pick. And then day 3 is obviously more developmental aspect. But most teams want contributors in those top 3 rounds in the best case scenario. And the first rounders, they got to get out there and play for the most part.
John, if I made you predict the first 3 positions that they draft, what would it be?
Tell me if AJ's here and Jalen Phillips is here, but I'm going to assume I'm going
to let you choose whether they're here or not.
I'm going to presume that I'm going to presume they're here, and it's going to be offensive line, tight ends, and then the third one, wide receiver.
Offensive line, tight end, wide receiver. Did they draft a running back this year?
Maybe day 3. I mean, you can draft anything in day 3. Day 3 is like just, day 3 is just Well, it's just the best player. Who's the best player? Day 3 is easy. From that standpoint. I don't mean it's easy finding players. It's just you have your board and you just take the best guy who's left on the board. In Howie's case, he likes to move. So if he wants more picks, he'll go down. But day 3's, you don't really have that much pressure to, if you've done, again, going back to free agency, if you've done your job in free agency and properly draft proof the roster, which Howie will do because he's been around for a long time, you just take the best guy on your board, man. You don't have to worry about positional. You don't have to worry about replacing Lane Johnson, because everybody, the whole need is the worst talent evaluator in sports, which I agree with. But you got to be realistic too. If you have certain positions you're not looking for. So, the good teams, it's the best player at the group of positions you need help in is how it works. Because obviously if you have Josh Allen, Buffalo's not taking a quarterback. So if the quarterback's the best player on the board, they're not looking at him. So that's how it works early, and then late you can settle down and just take who's the best guy left. That could be a running back, that could be anything. Probably not going to.
Where does the first defensive pick come in? I know you've talked a lot about the offense picks. Probably they're going heavy there.
Probably the compensatory pick. I would go if you want to take it down to. I take edge rusher there. Probably.
And if Jalen, all right, now do the exercise
or corner if you like a corner.
Now do it this way. Ready? I'm going to put you through the ringer here, John, in the last 30 minutes of this Friday show. Now do the exercise. If only AJ was gone. So if they signed Phillips, but AJ is gone, what positions are the first 3 or 4 picks?
Offensive line, wide receiver, tight end.
All right, so similar, just bump that wide receiver up a little bit more. That makes sense. Okay, now if Phillips is gone and AJ remains, this should throw a big wrinkle. Where would you go?
Yeah, I'm going edge rusher 1, offensive line 2, tight end 3. But you could. Just because I think tight end is deeper. Tight end's deep, man. You can get good players. Like I don't even worry about it. Don't even look at Sadiq. They're going to be able to get a good tight end, good prospect later.
There was good tight ends last year too, wasn't there? Wasn't there deep tight ends last year? I think Harold Fannin had a pretty damn good year. That's somebody we talked about, but obviously wasn't a blocker, so didn't really fit in Philly. But
like Eli Stowers from Vandy, Michael Trigg from Baylor, even Eli Raritan from Notre Dame. You want a blocker? Get that guy. And he can catch the ball too. Justin was it Jolly from North Carolina State.
Yeah.
A bunch of good tight ends. Jack Endries from Texas.
I mean, if you don't have Goddard though, John, you need a contributor.
If you're not bringing Goddard back, you really want Max Clare or Eli Stowers. They could be potentially, play year 1, maybe even Michael Trigg. You got to get somebody.
It's starting to feel like, John, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm starting to get the vibe that Goddard's going to be back. I don't know. I've seen some stuff on social. Even Cilio, who's been saying, "Oh, Goddard's done." I heard him say, "Oh, I think they might bring Goddard back," based on what I heard.
It's market, complete market with Goddard. I mean, he's going to be 32 late in the season, but he's, is he going to get 10 plus million? If he gets that, if he gets 2 years, he's gone. So if he's 1 year, 7-8 million, I think they'll bring him back. Complete Isaiah Rodgers situation, complete market. Like, what is the market? Now, coming into it, I said, well, the guy had 13 touchdowns. Somebody's going to give him 2 years. But if they don't, because he has some injury issues, he's had a lot of
I'd give him 2
issues
years.
Over the years. So would I. I mean, I'd give him 2 years, especially if I'm a good team that needs a tight end.
If I'm the Eagles, forget a good team. If I'm the Eagles, I'd give him 2 years.
Well, the Eagles aren't, but no.
Feels similar to AJ, though. I mean, are you going to get that? Do you want to win in 26 or do you not want to win in 26? If you want to win in 26, signing Dallas Goedert for $7 to $10 million, where if let's just assume it falls in there, to me feels like a no-brainer. You're not getting better, John, by replacing Goddard with Max Clare. Now, maybe you add Max Clare and you'll get better. But if you want to win this year,
Howie's thinking in 3-year increment. He doesn't go into it. I get fans want that.
I know, but that's why I started the show where I did, John, because if he's thinking in 3-year increments and A.J. Brown ends up gone and Dallas Goedert ends up gone and they're drafting for the future after Lane Johnson, well, that's like as close to throwing in the white towel as it's going to appear to fans. At least to me, it will.
Well, that's why I talked for 40 minutes to try to explain it to as many fans who
you can explain it all you want. I mean,
seriously, to many fans that want to hear it, that want to listen, and there aren't a lot, but if some do, some are always going to default to, you got to win every year. You got to win. You got to win. You got to win. I mean, that's not his job. He's not gonna just think about 2026 and hell or high water. I don't think anybody does. Even Les Snead doesn't do it that way, even though he embraces, the T-shirts and the marketing and fuck them picks because he's got a big ego. They all got big egos, but they don't think about it that way. So, you don't want to go in. Like, one of the mistakes I think going into this year that you can criticize him for is not having a plan at tight end. And that's why you're in the position, because you didn't get a prospect or get somebody more relevant who could be the heir apparent. And now maybe they'll correct that with Max Clare or somebody else. By the way, tight end news about Oscar Delp, who we're talking about, can't go through combine drills due to a liability issue. Apparently, he played the entire season at Georgia with a hairline fracture in his foot, and it was accidentally found on a routine x-ray. So health again, medicals.
Well, how do they know he had it all year then if it was just found?
I don't know, but that's from Zach Klein. But they found it on a routine x-ray. He's told Delp wants to compete but won't be allowed. He'll be a full go at Georgia's Pro Day on March 18th. There's your further Oscar Delp news.
Maybe that'll get him to drop another round.
Maybe.
How he can
there you go. Maybe, maybe he could use that. Don't dismiss it. You could use that. But yeah, so from your original point of, I'm surprised Dallas was here that last year, and it worked out. I'll be surprised if he's here this year. But if he gets a 1-year prove-it deal for $7 or $8 million, they'll bring him back. 2 years, I think he's gone.
We'll see what ends up happening with that. Johnny Mac, 20 minutes left in the show today. I want to thank everybody for being here. Appreciate everybody being here this week. Don't forget to hit that like button. John, a couple super chats we'll get to. Let's go to Devin Shanahan right now. What's up, Devin? Good to see you, brother. He says this: I work with a lot of travelers at the stadium. Most are from Boston. If I hear another one of these guys say something about AJ being traded, I might lose it. Just to give you context, John, Devin is in Buffalo. He works on the new stadium. So he goes, he's
nice.
I don't know if he's a contractor or what he does, but he works at the new stadium they're building for the Bills. So I assume that's what he's talking about there, John.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I hear a lot of players that a lot of fans that, don't want AJ going to New England because it would make him happy. Trust me, he'll be happy for 2 years. They'll be unhappy.
Yeah, it's true. It feels like AJ Brown is the hot name at the combine. There's always like a hot name, John. It feels like AJ is the hot name this year.
Well, we're in Philadelphia. I mean, there's always,
Yeah, I'm asking for you
always a
to give
lot.
me the skinny from outside Philadelphia, though. Feels like he's the hot name for everybody in the league.
Well, he's a big name player, but there's a lot. I mean, Max Crosby is a freaking huge name. You know,
Yeah, they're asking for an arm and a leg, though, to
yeah.
get, to get him.
You already got a trade with Jermaine Johnson going back with Robert Saleh.
Yeah.
You already, Anthony Richardson is, going to be on the trade. Tua's on the trade market. So quarterbacks always generate.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny yesterday when Ed Kratz said to oh man,
Yeah.
that was good.
Boy, you throw in the concussion history, which is obviously very serious. I don't know why anybody would want Tua. I mean, how do you?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad for the guy, but I just don't think he's a good quarterback, number one. But he's when he's clicking, he puts up numbers because he can throw the football. So if guys are open, he's gonna put up some big numbers, but I don't think you're gonna win with him long term. But there's a lot of teams so desperate they'll take that. But I would go in a different direction.
Speaking of the great Ed Kratz, who joined us yesterday, great segment yesterday. Here's Vulnerable Vitality, who brings up another name that Ed mentioned yesterday. Vulnerable says this: rest easy, Eagles and Nakobe Dean fans. I've got your replacement right here in beautiful Columbia, Missouri. Get ready for another Trotter, Birds fans. Learn the name, Josiah Trotter.
Well, they already know the name, but yeah, they're very familiar with the Trotters. But yeah, come on, Vulnerable Vitality. There are other schools. You have to look outside of Missouri. Now the
He's
Eagles
a big Mizzou guy, John.
I get it, but and that's great. And be a very good program, very good. Got some good players. Josiah being one of them, but yeah, the Eagles already have their replacement for Nakobe Dean. They're not looking for another linebacker. Be a great story because of his father and his brother, but they're not looking for another linebacker in that situation where, and again, Josiah might be hopefully gone by day 3. So I think he's going to be elsewhere, not in Philadelphia.
Well, how much longer do you expect Zach Bond to be an Eagle? Another 2 seasons, another 3 seasons, another 4 seasons?
Let's put it this way. I never, because, the NFL moves so fast. I don't even think about Zach Bond right now. And that's a good thing because he's been their best player, best all-around defensive player on one of the best defenses in the NFL for 2 consecutive years. I don't even worry about him. Like he's my guy. And Jihad Campbell is next to him, and Trot, Jeremiah, not Josiah, is the 3rd linebacker. Small Munden's the 4th linebacker. I'm sure they'll bring in some guys undrafted, maybe day 3 guy, but they're pretty good at linebacker. For an organization that went about 2 decades without having any linebackers, this is a pretty impressive group.
It is. We'll see what ends up happening with it. Johnny Mac, good show today so far. Got about 15 minutes left to play here. We'll see if we take it all the way up to the top. John, what's the other news that we got to get the Eagle fans here going into the weekend with the Combine? I think we hit on everything.
But we did not hit on Bea Rasul. I forgot to mention Bea Rasul.
Okay.
Former
Who is Bea
Raiders.
Rasul, John?
He is going to be hired as a defensive assistant. Had been with the Raiders, longtime college coach. Mainly been tutoring defensive backs. So that's kind of his expertise. Tyler Yelk, who was a lower level defensive assistant, went to Nebraska to be the safeties coach there. So my best guess is Bayat Rasul will be the replacement for Tyler Yelk. But I pride myself on giving Eagles fans so you should have known Tyler Yelk before because we've mentioned him, and now you should know Bayat Rasul.
There you go. Bayat Rasul has landed. There you go. Good stuff there. One more super chat here. Bedstoy. I think that's how you say that. I'd take a flyer on Johnny Mack lined up at inside linebacker. I think he'd be pretty cheap. John, what do you say?
I'm kind of aged out.
I'm kind of
aged out. I can handle the physical part. I'm kind of aged out. I don't think I could run at the level they would need me to run, but I could take the punishment. Might be a day off. Might be a day off for me with the way Tank beats the shit out of me every day now. Not Tank Bigsby, my dog.
How is Tank? We need a Tank update. How is Tank?
He's good. He went to the vet for the first time yesterday, so he wasn't happy about that. But
I know you walked out of there with a big ass bill, as you always do. Whenever you go into a vet,
three bills right off the bat, man.
Yeah, that's what it does, man. The vets they suck you dry, but you need them, so it is what it is. Good stuff, John. I hope Tank is enjoying his new life at the McMullen household. I think he hit the lotto, John, getting picked up by the great John McMullen, and now Tank. I mean, by the way, I forgot to mention that to Jeff Kerr. I got to bring that up next week. Now I got Tank.
I bet we mentioned it. We mentioned
Barkley.
it. Yeah,
did we? He was on Tuesday.
Yeah, we mentioned it the week prior when I got Tank. I told the story that Barkley. Now, Jeff named his dog after Saquon Barkley. He's a Penn State sycophant. I did not name my dog after Tank Bigsby. That's actually my wife and her friends. They said he looks like a tank, so that's why they gave him the name.
It's a great name. I'm not gonna lie. I love the name Tank. I mean, it's a great freaking name, especially for a bulldog. It's a phenomenal name.
Yeah. So that's how he got his name, but it is not in deference to the great Tank Bigsby. But Tank's an Auburn guy, so Tank Bigsby.
That's true.
Not Tank the dog.
Yeah, it's true. Good stuff. All right, Johnny Mac, give me your final thoughts here. We're going to get out of here about 10 minutes early here on a football Friday. I know everybody's not going to be happy about that, but John, the weather here is funny. It's like the morning you freeze your baguettes off. I'm sitting out here on the deck for those who don't know where I'm at. You can see I got the make sure my thing stays plugged in. I got the woods. I got the trees next to me. Freezing your baguettes off in the morning. Yesterday I went on a walk. It's so cool though, John. I mean, you go on this long, windy road through the mountain, and there's a house probably every half a mile or so, maybe a little more when you find the really big ones. But I'm like, that's my cut. John, I don't want to see my neighbors. I don't even want to hear my neighbors. I don't even want to know if my neighbors exist. That's my style right there, J-Mac. So it is pretty cool. But it gets real hot in the day, man. Like 60 here is like
boy,
hot,
I would love a nice 60-degree day right about now. I would love it. By the way, I checked it's supposedly, it's very early, but supposedly going to be 70 in the Delaware Valley next Friday.
Wow.
If things hold up.
All right, so that's a week out. We got to make sure that holds, but hopefully we do get a warm front at home. We'll see what ends up happening. Johnny Mac, your final thoughts here today on a football Friday for the Birds 365 Nation.
Yeah, more combine. That'll wrap up this weekend for the most part. Quarterbacks today, so get interested. Garrett Nussmeier. There's going to be some Garrett Nussmeier to the Eagles hype because they've liked that kid for a long time since Doug was here. So, yeah, get some quarterback hype. Not a great quarterback draft though, and I think yeah, I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to get pushed up the board because there's so few quarterbacks. So I doubt he's coming to Philadelphia, but I do know the Eagles do like him as a prospect. They've liked him for a while.
Yep, we'll see what ends up happening. Johnny Mac, great show, brother. Appreciate you doing it all week this week. We will catch up with you on Monday. Enjoy your weekend with Tank. All right. Tank, be a good boy. All right. Johnny Mac, thank you, brother. I will talk to you on Monday. All right, man.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks, J-Mac. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen, joining us right here on Birds 365. Great show today. Couple-minute wrap, and then I'll get out of Dodge here on a Football Friday. I want to thank everybody for being here. A couple reminders. Big thanks to Fritz Bianculli for sponsoring Birds 365. They are the #1 sponsor of Birds 365. Brian Fritz, give him a call. He's the best in the business. Anybody who grew up in Philly, Brian Fritz is a true Philly guy. Like he's honest, he's hardworking, and he's as real gets. He is not going to bullshit you. So give Brian Fritz a call. We appreciate him and their law firm for sponsoring Birds 365, the #1 sponsor of Birds 365. Appreciate that. And then the final update here on the tickets, guys. If you didn't get your ticket text in, I don't know where we stand, so I'm kind of shooting from the hip here. But I know we had a couple left and then a couple people who texted but never ultimately pulled the trigger. So if you want the opportunity to go to the home opener for $100, which is pretty insane, and hang out with the great people of JAKIB Nation, come to our tailgate. We're going to have full food. We'll be doing a full pregame show, the whole 9 yards. Shoot Krause a text. That's 267-261. Sorry about that, guys. The Bears got to me. Yeah, the Bears got to me. My bad, folks. But I appreciate you joining in. Look, I'm hardwired. It's funny. Look, let me see if I can show you. I'm freaking hard. Can I show you? I got to keep it plugged in. I am hardwired, but it goes down. It falls down the side here into the kids' room. The router. I mean, it's like 2000. I don't know, 2010, 12. Who knows, man? What ends up happening? But appreciate all you guys. I don't know what you heard or what you didn't. I fell off. Sorry about that. Hit that like button. I'll see you next time, everybody. Love all you guys. Appreciate it.